So the title of tonight's talk is called My God is Better Than Your God. We know what that means. So we live in a world where there's a lot of different religions, there's a lot of different spiritual paths, and even people who say, I'm not religious, you can even say that they're following some kind of ideals. I think someone said recently that atheism should also be considered a religion. So we have a world full of many different religions, many different paths, and even if you don't accept like one of the major religions of the world, everyone's kind of admiring something. They're kind of worshiping something. So for some people, God is money. For some people, sex is God. It's that thing that we look towards the most. And needless to say that we have so many different beliefs because we're individuals that there's quarrel, there's fighting, there's disagreement, right? So it's actually predicted a long time ago in the ancient Sanskrit scriptures of India that this would be called the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So it's an age where there's a lot of personal conflict, there's a lot of religious conflict, political conflict, social conflict. It's a world of a lot of conflict, and they say especially this time now. So many people, they get into this. They like to fight over the difference. And that's usually what we have that's usually what religious dialogues have become in our world. Is my God is better than your God. My point of view is the best. Therefore, you should accept that. So tonight we've heard that. We've probably had more than enough. So tonight I wanted to kind of give you an alternative view. One of my favorite authors, his name is Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He actually wrote one of the most beautiful philosophical treatises on religion that I had ever personally read. It seemed to harmonize a lot of these conflicts. So I just wanted to share quickly a few of these points with you. He said that, yes, we're in a world, there's many different religions, but if you look at the underlying theme of all religions, there's usually a very similar concept. If you're uncivilized or the more primitive, we could say, cultures, they worship the sun, they'll worship the moon, they'll worship different powers that be. If we move up, then we have a more civilized society, and they're more structured. Generally, people, they want to do some service to society. They're more structured in the way that they see the world. And usually that progresses to what we know as the scientific stage, where we rely on science, right, to improve our lives through medicine and different things like this. And he explains that if you move up, then you have the moral stage of life. And in our Constitution in America, they give a lot of truths. They say, all men are created equal, everyone should have a right to pursue happiness. And how do we know that? In the Constitution, what does it say?
In England.
We know because these are to be self-evident truths, right? So in the moral stage, there's a sense of right and wrong, and there's a sense of duty to others. And Bhaktivinoda says if you keep going up, then he said that's what he calls the highest stage. He calls the transcendental stage, or he calls the devotional stage. Pretty much what that means is that one works for the truth so selflessly that they do not even consider their own happiness. And he considers that to be the highest pleasure, somebody just giving everything for the whole, the cause. So, he says there's 5 differences in the world's religions. 1, he said, out of all the world's religions, the first difference that we notice is there's a difference of teachers, right? So in Christian tradition, we have Jesus. Then we have, in the East, we have Buddha. Then we have Islam. We have all these different teachers, Muhammad of the Islam. So in each religion, there's some teacher. They're different, right? 2, there's a difference in the expression and reverence. People show their devotion to Islam or Christianity or Hinduism or whatever in a different way. There's a difference of the way they express that. 3, there's difference of worship and ritual. 4, there's a difference of concept of God. So in Christianity, there's a concept of God. There's a concept of God in all religions, but they can be very different. That's why there's a lot of conflict. And 5, finally, he says, there's a difference in the name of God, or that truth, that divine truth from which we all come, and that's due to having different languages. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he writes that these are 5 differences in the world's religion, and he makes a wonderful statement. He says, the foolish people of this world are going to argue over these 5 semantics. He said the foolish people are so attached to the culture that they grew up in, the clothes that they wear, the food that they eat. There's a difference in environment. So all these differences definitely influence a people's view. And he said a foolish person is going to argue over these 5 things. And he said actually it's the greatest loss when we begin to argue over these 5 things. And he says furthermore how arrogant and foolish it is to go to another person's country and see their religion and say, everyone should stop doing this, everyone should do what I do because my religion's the best. Why? Because it's mine. So he says this is foolish, and we can give a couple practical examples. The sun, that's something that provides light and nourishment for all of us. Every living being survives on the sun. So in English we call it the sun. In South America, Sol. In India, Surya, or right? Any other names? Just for fun. Vivashvan. That's Sanskrit. You're probably rusty. Sanskrit, anything? What else? What language?
Sunce.
Sunce. What
Yeah.
language is that?
Croatian.
That's in Croatian. So, there's one thing which is providing us all sorts of energy. And there's different names. So, here's the foolish person. He comes up, he knocks on your door, and he says, excuse me, sir, I've come to tell you to follow my religion, and we worship the sun. And he has some name for it, right? And then the person's like, oh, well, this is Surya, according to my culture and my language. And he said, no, that's the sun. And he's like, no, it's Surya. So I'm digging a big argument, and you can see where that's leading. It's the same thing, different name, right? So similarly, water may have many different names, but when you're thirsty, do you care what the name is called? No, you drink it. So, well, that's right. Now we have fluoride and all kinds of things. So, okay. So we can obviously see how limited this approach to religion or truth is. So in order for us to go deeper into life, into religion, and try to understand like what religion is for, it's for finding the truths, the universal truths about life. We need to go beyond these 5 external differences. And he explains, now naturally somebody may have raised some questions. Well, you can't equalize them all, and we'll get to that. But unfortunately, most religions today, or I wouldn't even say religions, but I would say followers of religions, they promote this, that you have to accept this name sun. It cannot be Surya, it cannot be anything, and they're just kind of ignorant to that. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in this writing, he says, actually, if you look deeply, if you go deep into the religious or spiritual scriptures of the world, you'll find the same beautiful truths. That love, that source from which we all come, and through that source we're all connected. And therefore, if you love the source, then you have to love everything that emanates. So you find in every religion very similar point. So he said in this case, because the goal is the same, or at least the direction is the same, he says nobody should be, sectarian like this. So the problem today is that usually people don't go deep enough into the religion. They don't dive deep enough. They don't practice deep enough. So they're kind of like a verbal yogi. Somebody's like, yeah, I'm a yogi, but they don't really practice necessarily the discipline. Or people are like, I'm a Christian, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Muslim, and they don't really come to what the religion's trying to teach you, is to see everything on a unified state of consciousness, that we're all connected here. And each religion will bring you to that place if you let it. So just to clarify those arguments, there's two extremes here. One extreme is all religion is right. It doesn't matter what you do. If your religion is just taking heroin every day and killing babies, it's your religion. You can do whatever you want because it's all one, it's all good. Obviously, we can't accept that extreme. That's too extreme. So the other extreme is no religion's right. Nobody knows. I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. But there is a universe, so let's call it the universe. Right? So there's two extremes. One extreme, everyone knows, everyone's right, everyone's correct. And the other extreme is nobody knows. Nobody knows anything. We can never know. How do you know? So one teacher, actually heard this analogy. It's very good. He said, therefore, why not meet in the middle, right? Some things are right, some things may be wrong. But again, he's saying you have to look for the essence. So in Vedic culture, they give an analogy of a person who is able to look for the essence. It's an insect. Could you guess what that insect might be, for those who don't already know? Who's able to find nectar everywhere? It's a bumblebee.
Swan?
No. So, it's not a swan, it's a bee. So the bee, what does a bee do? The bee gets pollen from this flower, from that flower, from that flower. Does the bee go to the garbage? No. What goes to the garbage? The fly. The fly and the bee. You don't know this? So there's fly and there's a bee. One looks for the bad, the differences, and the bee, he finds the goodness. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, okay, therefore we should use our intelligence to try to find what is beneficial. And he said, but even though we encourage everyone to not criticize, very important point, we have to reject ideas which are unjust. We have to look at an idea, a religion, and we have to see if it's unjust, and we have to reject that. Once, I went to college, and we were distributing some of the books, and Christian, he came up, a follower of Christianity, and he said, do you know that only 144,000 people are going to be saved? And it's all predetermined, there's no free will. And I was like, so there's nothing I can do to become one of those? He's like, nope, it's all God's grace. So I said, wait a minute. You follow me? I said, so wait a minute. Let me guess. You're one of the 144,000.